Hi there. For this week's Advanced Interactive Concept question, we looked at nuclear bombs. And as stated in the prompt, we can't really experiment with nuclear material or with nuclear bombs because that's very illegal. And you're also working with radioactive material, and that's pretty bad for yourself. So we couldn't really do it. But learning about how a nuclear bomb works was interesting to me. When I was younger, I was really interested in the whole atomic bomb and how it happened in Hiroshima, and so I knew a lot of the history about those two bombs, and just knowing how these bombs were made and the science behind making a nuclear weapon was interesting to me. Obviously, I'm not going to make the nuclear weapon, but just learning about it really was interesting to me. So during this presentation, I kind of based it off of the bombs that happened in Japan, which were Little Boy and Fat Boy. And so Little Boy was a uranium bomb, and Fat Boy was a plutonium bomb. And those were the elements that were used in those bombs. So later on, I'll go into further depth about it. So why this happens, or a nuclear bomb happens because of fission. And the definition of fission is an action of dividing or splitting something into two or more parts. And so basically what the basis of this is that you have a nucleus where all of the neutrons and protons are, and all of the electrons are circling around this nucleus. And you take a neutron and you shoot it at the nucleus, and it will break the nucleus apart, and the atoms will, and the nucleus will be broken into two and more parts, and then they will be shot off. And so that's the initial part of the explosion, but that's not the worst part of the explosion. The worst part of the explosion is the chain reactions that happen, and the chain reactions happen due to the fact that when these pieces break off, they fly around all over the place, and if they hit each other, there's more reactions, and fission happens again and again and again. So it's initial, and then you have all of these chain reactions that allow for this type of bomb to be so dangerous. So at the center of every atom, there's a nucleus, and the nucleus is one of the most important parts in a nuclear bomb. And so breaking that nucleus apart can release large amounts of energy. And the nuclear weapons use the energy that happens when breaking this apart in the explosion. So that's the most important part about this. And so as I said earlier, we'll be talking about the bombs that happened in Japan, Little Boy and Fat Boy. So Little Boy and Fat Boy were both nuclear bombs. Little Boy was made out of uranium, and Fat Boy was made out of plutonium. And they used isotopes for this, and so they didn't use the actual uranium. They used just a different type of uranium that was the same type of uranium, just a different atomic number, or different molar mass. And they use this so that when you split it, you could have different chain reactions or more chain reactions. And so I thought that was really fun, or not fun, interesting to look at. But both of these bombs, Fat Boy and Little Boy, were made differently due to the element that they used. So what the scientists did back in that day was that when they made this bomb, they wanted to have the most, I want to say the worst reaction possible. And so they put a large amount of this element inside of the bomb. And so they packed it in, and they did this because they wanted a larger reaction. And the larger reaction would be given off if they had more mass of the thing that they wanted to break. So they had a lot of the element inside, and when that first nucleus was separated and created that first little bit of energy, then the parts of that nucleus that were broken off hit other parts, and then the chain reactions occurred. So basically, chain reaction is the only reason why the explosion was that bad. And that is my presentation.